just if the owners are involved in their business and signing all the checks, not relying on their employees for everything, and have a clear understanding of their accounting system, you avoid almost all of that.
So, as a new contractor, what kind of program do you recommend we use to help us keep track of all this stuff so that we can do our job costing?
There are so many and very good software programs for construction contractors, but our preference, because we're very experienced with it, it's very easy to train people on, is QuickBooks, the Construction Contractor Edition, because it does a great job of job costing. So all your direct expenses, your labors, your materials, your subcontractors, any direct expenses you have can be tracked through QuickBooks. And it's very simple for people to use. It's very simple to set up separate jobs in them. And we have an expertise in it. So it's hard to have an expertise in all the different software out there. We have, so some of our larger highway contractors are using very specialized software. But it's hard to know it all. So QuickBooks, we like QuickBooks, especially for a startup, because it's inexpensive also. It's easy to train people on. We understand it. In almost every one of our contractors, we do the overhead allocation. We don't rely on their software to do that because we have a formula, and that formula is a little hard to compute even under the more sophisticated software programs. So again, I would say that the QuickBooks Construction Contractor Edition is the one that we prefer to work with.
So we had QuickBooks, and then we switched to something called Foundation. Really good software. Yep. I really don't have a problem with it. But one of the problems we found is that as good as that software was, there was no videos available. So when we ran into a problem, we were on the phone with tech support. You couldn't help us because you didn't know the software. Right. It was just cumbersome. So think about all those things when you're looking into the software, because having that tech support and having that video bank, you can learn how to do almost anything with QuickBooks just by going to YouTube. I mean, anything.
Yeah. And I will add this too. One of the things that, as an owner of a business, one of the things you have to be careful of is being held hostage. A lot of times you can have your in-house accountant, your bookkeeper, hold you hostage if you have a proprietary type software that they are the only ones that know, and it is very difficult to find people that have experience on it. So say you lose that accountant. They are the only ones that know how to use that software, and you're trying to find someone else from this area to replace them. It's almost impossible. And so with QuickBooks, because we as accountants, almost all of us accountants are versed in QuickBooks. Most of us, even with the construction contractor job costing, we can help facilitate training of a new employee if you have your accountant or your bookkeeper leave, where with these unique softwares, you're at the mercy of that employee, and you never, as a contractor, you never want to put yourself in that position where you're so reliant on a person that you're basically held hostage.
That's what happened to us. So we were on Foundation, and that was going great. I mean, I wasn't loving it. I wasn't loving it because it just wasn't intuitive like QuickBooks is. It wasn't point and click. It was a lot more cumbersome. It did a lot more stuff, but did we really need some of that stuff? So the person that was in charge of that left, and then I'm like, I can do stuff in here, but I barely know it, and it's cumbersome. And so we ended up switching back, and that was a whole process. I had to hire some people to help me get all our books cleaned up and moved over. And but yeah, I mean, that was the only person that knew how to run that. And so when she left, that program's done.
Yep.
I know a lot of people are using QuickBooks Online. Now, I think one of the drawbacks to that is it cannot do job costing, correct?
Yeah, I would definitely not recommend. You have to have the desktop version.
Or you can do Enterprise, which is what we do, and that's a hosted version.
Yeah, you do not want to do online, though, because it doesn't have those capabilities yet. I mean, they may expand into it, but we do not recommend that.
And we're using Enterprise, so if you do want to get your QuickBooks wherever you're at, so with our locations, everybody can dial into that, and it doesn't matter if I'm off on some a training trip somewhere else, all of our people have access to
Yeah,
those books no matter where
absolutely.
they're
So
at.
I could get on, get
Yeah.
online and access
And we
your
do that.
information.
We just
and that's
log
what
you in.
with our contractors that are out of town. That's exactly what we do. In fact, Monday I'll be reviewing a contractor's financials who's down in Laramie. I'll be reviewing from Powell. I'll be reviewing his financials from Laramie. We get online, we talk through them. So it's about a half an hour meeting. And we basically are just looking at, how we're performing on those jobs. How are yours shaping up?
So yeah, if you're looking for that QuickBooks desktop, if you're just a single location, you don't need that. But Enterprise works.
Do you use the Right Networks? Is that the one?
Yeah,
you're
Right
using?
Networks.
Yeah, because
It's
that's what
hosted.
most of them that we're accessing our clients' records from. We're using that Right Networks. That seems to be the most efficient.
Costs a little bit more, but
Yeah.
we can get it from anywhere, which is super, super nice. So we have, I think that in the contracting world, there's the people who get started, and they're the ones that bring you the receipts in a bucket, and they're like, "There, here you go. Good luck. Call me when my taxes are done." What should I do if I'm that contractor and my books are a mess? And how do I get started? What advice would you offer them?
What I would do is make sure when you interview, an accountant, make sure that they have experience with construction contracting. Because what they'll do is they'll coach you up. They'll explain to you what you need to do, how you need to set things up. Because that's the most important. If you get things set up right from the start and have the right people plugged into place, your business will be successful. There's work out there. You can see it. There's things, everything's blowing and going right now. It's just all a matter of getting things set up right, having the right people, surrounding yourself with the right people. And then, that record keeping function, which you're alluding to, it's always a nightmare of us, finding, having people bringing boxes of stuff in. We don't want to see that. But what we will do is we will tell you what to do with those boxes. We'll help you set up the software, set up your chart of accounts, show you how to do the job costing, and help train your bookkeepers or your accountants. That's important to find. That's important. A lot of times you think, oh man, I can't afford it. It's very expensive, but it will be the best dollars you spent. Is finding that right accountant to be on your team to basically coach your business up and to show you how you need to do your record keeping and to train your accountant and bookkeepers to have a close relationship with them. Because one of the things we do is a lot of times, like, the owners are busy doing, overseeing the project, so they don't have time to deal with the bookkeeping side of it. So they keep plugged into it the best they can. But what they've done is they've plugged their accountants or their bookkeepers in with us so that if they have any questions, they can contact us at any time. And that's very important, to be able to have someone to be able to rely on to basically help you through stickier problem situations.
And we don't need an accountant. We could use a bookkeeper. I mean, we don't need a certified CPA or anything.
No.
We just need somebody, and a lot of times you just need somebody with a good head on their shoulders, and they can be trained.
It depends on the size of your business too. Because most small businesses, that are, say, under $5 million, you can just deal with a bookkeeper. When you get above that, when you get into the 10, 15, $20 million, you really need an accountant. You need someone that actually has an accounting degree. They don't have to be CPAs, but you want someone that understands the fundamentals, because, things can slide from you. So where a general bookkeeper, like, they're paying bills and receiving cash, but they're not managing things, on an accrual basis, which is critical, managing cash flows. So I would say, based on the size of the NER, that would dictate what type of person you need in-house, whether it's a bookkeeper or an accountant.
And we're flirting with that. I think we're flirting with that now. Like, it's starting to get to the point where I really should have somebody. I mean, I feel like I'm getting there.
Yeah, because it is for sure, and it's a costly proposition, but it's one that's necessary for you to succeed. Because one of the things that we see with larger contractors, you think, wow, we got it made, but man, every year's a new year. And it's very important to have good people around you. And the larger you are, you really need that higher caliber of accountant that to work for you or to work with you. But again, we've seen like bookkeepers, after a series of years and series of training, turn into phenomenal accountants. You know what I mean? I would say they're every bit as good as most CPAs out there. It's just it takes a series of years to get to that point. So you can train them up, but it's nice to have a foundation of accounting so that they're understanding more than just paying bills and receiving money. There's more. There's a lot more to that position. But again, a lot of our clients rely on us to help with that support. So
it's that automatic job costing. They're watching the projects. Yep. You're getting some leading indicators if there's problems or issues arising.
Yeah.
Rather than waiting till the end of the year to say. I mean, that's exactly what we used to do. We used to go in and how much money did we? How did that go? And there was years when we'd go into our old accountant and we'd think we were doing great because we were using my bank account balance accounting method, and we felt pretty good about things. And they're like, "You didn't make any money."
Yeah.
Then there's the next year, and we had no money in the bank account. Like, hey, you made a lot of money, and you're gonna have to pay some taxes.
Yeah. See, that's what you always have to be careful of too, and that's why analyzing that cash flow is very important. Because if you're making money, you're making it from operations. Again, what you're charging customers, less your costs, less your employees' costs. That's the most critical factor. Because we've had people that have actually borrowed a bunch of money, so they have cash in the bank at year end, but they didn't make money. So you're in really actually in financial distress. Maybe not currently, but you will be before too long. So your increase in cash can't be from borrowing. Yeah. It should be from the profits of the business. So
could
it's
be from investing. That's not bad.
Yeah, investing, like if people, those are fine. But it's very important to understand. It's very complex. Construction contracting is not easy, and that's why again it's very important to find an accountant that has an understanding of it.
So how important is my bookkeeping and my record keeping, especially as it pertains to when I do need to buy something? Let's say I want to build a building or I want to buy a new piece of equipment or whatever. How important is that record keeping?
It's very important. I mean, it's just one of the things that we've seen is like, the most successful contractors that we work with are ones like you that are very in touch, with their financial statements. They know where they are at any given time. The owners that are overseeing the projects that are basically solely focused on getting the work done, that aren't overseeing the financials, we see a struggle there. If you have a good record keeping system and you have a good accountant on hand, you can overcompensate that. You can overcome that weakness is not having the owner involved in the financial aspects of the business. But the most successful contractors, the owner is always involved in it. And we like to see owners that actually understand from start to finish the accounting system. We always find that if they understand all the mechanics, all the moving parts of the accounting system, they will be able to manage and operate their businesses more successfully.
So there was a couple of thoughts that I had on that. And one of them is, back in the day, it was really easy, especially when I didn't understand. It was out of a lack of understanding of my financial statements that I didn't do anything. But then when the business started to fail, what I'd do is I just stuck my head in the sand. I don't want to know what's going on over there, so I'm just not going to look at it. And we're just going to let those people handle it. And I'm just going to go out there and do my operations thing because it's depressing and I just don't want to deal with it. And so I check out. And to me, that looking back on that creates some problems. It can create a risk where it's very easy for somebody to take advantage of you. You're already broke, and it's pretty easy for somebody to, there's a lot of stories out there of owners that check out of their business, hand that over to somebody, and then there's no oversight whatsoever. And they get taken advantage of and somebody embezzles a bunch of money, making situations worse. Or maybe they were doing really good and somebody embezzles money and that causes a failure. So being checked out of your business finances is a bad place to be. What do you say about that?
Because, that's, I guess, if I were to go back to what we talked about business failures, and one of them is, theft from the bookkeeping, from the bookkeeping staff. Because one of the things that we have seen over the history, over doing this for 26 years, is, there is a history. If you as an owner are removed from the accounting system there is a tendency for people to either one, charge personal expenses to the business, or two, steal money from the business. It happens. I mean, the statistics are unbelievable how often that happens. And if someone's involved in their business, just if the owners are involved in their business and signing all the checks, not relying on their employees for everything, and have a clear understanding of their accounting system, you avoid almost all of that, because we do a lot of audits, of our larger construction contractors. And so with them, they have very good internal control systems set up. As a small owner, your primary internal control that you have is oversight by the owner and signing the checks. So, because every check that is written in that business, as long as the owner is signing it, typically you minimize the amount of fraud that's involved in a business. The exception is if you have people coming in and paying with cash, and you have a sophisticated bookkeeper, they would know how to eliminate that bill and pocket that cash. But most of the fraud that we see are people charging personal things to the business account, and it just going through, the owner's not paying attention to it, or the bookkeeper's just signing the checks, which we would say is always a mistake. The owner should be always signing all checks if you can, just for that checks and balance, that in good internal controls.
And I think it would be really important, if you're not signing checks, make sure that you get a reconciliation report, and you look at the bank reconciliations. Yep. Those are pretty important.
Yeah, absolutely. And what you need to do, because one of the things that we've seen is like fictitious vendors being set up. Say you have a bookkeeper and she's signing your checks. A lot of times what we've seen there is where, the bookkeeper will set up a fictitious vendor and pay them. And that's basically a business that they've set up that actually doesn't do business with you, and you're paying it. Well, as an owner, you need to look at what's being paid out of the business, and if you don't know who that vendor is, there's a chance that it's not real. Mm-hmm. And because they're saying literally it's like 80% of businesses that have some level of fraud involved in them. That's what the statistics say. And to be successful, you have to eliminate that. You can't have money escaping the company that shouldn't be escaping. It's hard enough to make a living, without that fraud or theft involved.
Well, I think that's all the questions I had. I can't think of any more. Do you have any closing thoughts for us?
No, I would just say, again, I think I've impressed this on everybody is it's very important to find an accountant that has experience with construction contractors to help your business move forward and to be successful. I would say, most accountants are very open to helping their clients, because we like to see our clients become successful. As you know what I mean? Business failure is trauma to everybody involved with it. I take it personally, like if we have a client that fails. And so we really try to coach, our clients up. We try to use, all these years of experience, basically apply all of the mistakes that we've seen and all the successes we've seen. We try to implement that to all of our clients, and I think it's proven out over time. You don't want just some guy that's trying to minimize your tax burden. You want someone that actually is concerned with your business and wants to see you succeed.
You dance a tightrope. It's make sure that we can get bonding, make sure that we don't have to pay more taxes than are necessary, not no taxes, and then make sure that the bank's happy with the direction that the company's headed. So you're really walking that tightrope all the time, and you do a fine job of it. Dave Ramsey always says, always look for somebody that has a heart of a teacher too, and I think that's super important, especially in accounting, because you as a new business owner may not understand a lot of this stuff, and if you don't have somebody that's going to do what my first accountant did and look at me like I've got a third eye in the middle of my forehead and think I'm stupid, and I just felt a lot of times I felt belittled, and that's not the kind of interaction or relationship that you want to have with your accountant.
I think a lot of accountants have a lot of head knowledge, but they're not able to communicate clearly with their clients that information to make them successful.
Yeah. If they would have just maybe even sat us down for a half an hour and said, okay, this is how profit and loss is arranged, and I'm not stupid. I would have figured it out. I just never had anybody explain it to me.
Yep.
This is before YouTube, by the way. YouTube was not a thing. I would have YouTubed it. Balance sheet, same thing. You know, if I would have understood those two critical things. And so one of the things that I did that made all the difference in the world, and I'll suggest this to you, if you are a new business, go take like an intro to accounting class at your community college or something, because that can help you tremendously. That's when I really started to gain a huge understanding of how accounting works.
Yeah. You know, and I'd add to that, if you ever have a chance to take a class that's on financial statements, balance sheet, profit and loss, cash flows, if you ever had a chance to do that, it is worth your time to understand the concepts of the balance sheet, profit and loss, and statement of cash flows.
There's not too many times I have to come to you and be like, now how do I get this situated? Most of the time it's just did I do this right? I just want to double check. But I understand the process, understand how it works.
Yep. And that's what's nice about being in business long enough. You learn those things. You know what I mean? They're a learned skill. And the problem is the first 5 years are absolutely critical, because that's when most businesses fail, within that first 5-year period. So you get out from that, you can see you got to work hard. You got to be very diligent, and even as a mature business, you got to be you have to pay attention to things, but you have a better understanding of it. It's easier to manage a business once you have a few years under your belt.
Yeah.
Getting you to that point is critical, though.
Yep. Well, James, I appreciate you talking with myself and answering some of these questions for our viewers, and hopefully you guys got some good information out of that, and it'll spark some conversations with your accountant, and you can build a better relationship with the accountant you have, or find a new one if they're not doing the job for you. So until next time, you have a good dang day.